Hello, I'm Javier, and I'll be teaching you today how to play Protection Warrior in The War Within Season 2, 11.1. First things first, if you like my UI, you can get this on my Patreon. I do get it requested a lot, and yes, I can help you install it through a VIP channel in Discord if you should wish. It's details over UI and a few other add-ons here. It's going to be very beginner-friendly. We are going to be going over the Mythic Plus and raiding aspects of playing a Protection Warrior, which basically equates into single target and or AoE. So both of those are there for you guys. The rotation is very similar, and as a tank, we are going to have to kind of be doing some specific things that it's not always so much of a rotation, but more of a priority list. So let's have a look what we've got here, shall we? We're going to be starting off with sort of more single target, but I'm going to be explaining it in for AoE as well. So looking at what we have here, if we go in, you're actually going to charge into combat here with your charge ability. This is just for going into combat. And you'll notice it says it generates 20 rage. Now that's this red bar we have here. This is your rage bar. And this is your main resource as a warrior. We're going to be generating rage and also spending it. So what is our number one priority? Well, that is going to be on the left-hand side here. And our lowest priority will be down on the right-hand side. So number one priority is using Avatar on cooldown. We transform into a Colossus and it basically increases our damage by 20% and we generate some rage. After that, we want to maintain shield block. You are going to be using a weapon and a shield as a protection tank. So we raise our shield, blocking all melee attacks against us for 8 seconds. These blocks can be critical blocks. Increases shield slam damage by 30% while active. You want to maintain this pretty much constantly. Shield Slam is this ability here. I'm going to be explaining that in a bit. And remember, the damage is going to be increased by 30% when Shield Block is active. The next one we have is Demoralizing Shout. Use this on cooldown. This is going to reduce the damage that your enemies deal to you by 25%. So pretty obvious why we want to use this on cooldown. Now, you'll see at this point, I'm capped on rage, and we don't like to cap on rage. It's seen as a waste. How are we going to be spending it? Well, we're going to use Ignore Pain. Fight through the pain, ignoring 50% of damage taken until X amount has been prevented. Repeated uses of Ignore Pain accumulate up to 1.4 million total damage. So when you're getting to a really high amount of rage, just use Ignore Pain as a pretty high priority here to basically just get rid and dump your rage. Next up, we have Champion Spear. This is on a 1.5 minute cooldown as well. You want to pretty much use it on cooldown. You throw a spear at the location, dealing damage and instantly and an amount over 6 seconds. Enemies hit are chained to the spear's location for the duration. Now, you also want to use this with your shield charge here. The Champion Spear is on a 1.5 minute cooldown. Shield charge is on 45 seconds. So every 2 shield charges, you can use Champion Spear. Charge to an enemy with your shield, dealing damage to it, and X amount of damage to nearby enemies. If you're wondering, well, there's 2 in the middle, that's because using Champion Spear is a really high priority. When you use Champion Spear, you want to use shield charge with it. But if Champion Spear is on cooldown, these 2 abilities are a higher priority than using shield charge on its own. Hopefully that makes sense. Obviously, set up your own action bars, however it makes best sense to lay it out for you. So what are the ones in the middle then? Well, we have Thunderclap here, and you'll notice that we have this on our action bar once and then twice. We're using it here as a priority when it is actually called something else. So we're going to be going with Mountain Fane, and you'll see here on Avatar of the Storm talent, it says Thunderblast. Your next Thunderclap becomes Thunderblast that deals Storm Strike damage. There's a few ways in here that it'll become that, etc. But basically, whenever you see your Thunderclap change, like this, into Thunderblast, this is when it is a priority here. If not, use Thunderclap on cooldown as a priority at this point. If this is getting confusing, don't worry, I am going to recap everything that I'm explaining to you. Then we're going to use Shield Slam on cooldown, Shield Charge on cooldown, Thunderclap on cooldown, so not Thunderblast when it's Thunderclap on cooldown. Revenge, we're going to be pretty much using on cooldown. We're going to use this to apply something called Deep Wounds when we're doing AoE, or it's going to help us actually reset our Shield Slam, which we are using on cooldown. So we swing in a wide arc, dealing physical damage. Your successful dodges and parries have a chance to make your next Revenge, cost no rage as well. And usually Revenge would cost 20 rage. After that, we've got Execute. Use this as your lowest priority whenever you can use it. You'll see that sometimes you'll get a proc on it and you can use it, like we have now. This is from something called Sudden Death. Your attacks have a chance to make your next Execute cost no rage and be usable on any target. As you can see here, we cannot usually use it. It's only usable on enemies with 20% health. Sometimes it will proc from Sudden Death, and we can use it whenever we want, however. So let's just recap that rotation again. Avatar on cooldown, Shield Block on cooldown. This is going to improve the damage of your Shield Slam. Demoralizing Shout on cooldown. Use Ignore Pain to dump your Rage. Use Champion Spear with your Shield Charge. Use Thunder Blast whenever it procs. Use Shield Slam on cooldown. So here we've got another Thunder Blast. And Thunder Blast again, we're getting high on Rage, so we're going to use it with Ignore Pain. And then we're going to use Execute because we can. Okay, now we can't, but we're going to use our Thunderclap and our Shield Slam because we can. Revenge and Execute, etc. You're basically just going down the priority list until something makes sense. Can I use Avatar? No. Can I use Shield Block? No. Can I use the Demoralizing Roar? No. Am I quite high on Rage? Yeah, I'd say so. I'm going to use an Ignore Pain. Oh, now I can use my Shield Block. And now I can use my Demoralizing Shout. Do I have Thunder Blast? Yes, I do. Can I use Shield Slam? Yes, I can. Can I use Shield Charge? Yes, I've got about enough time until my next Champion Spear comes on to use it once. Perfect. Avatar is now off cooldown. I use that. I'm really high on Rage. I'm going to use Ignore Pain. I can use Thunder Blast. I can use Shield Slam. I'm high on Rage. I'm going to use Ignore Pain. I'm going to use Thunder Blast. I'm going to use Shield Slam. And you're basically just going down the rotation like that, always trying to go as high priority as you can until you basically get to the next one down. So before we move on, let's have a look at some of the important talents that are causing us to do the things that we are doing. Your auto attacks have a 25% chance to reset the cooldown on Shield Slam, which is good to know. We have a 3-minute cooldown here, increases your health by 30% for 15 seconds and instantly heals you for that amount. That is called Last Stand. It's a really great defensive. Using Shield Slam increases the damage of your Shield Slam by 10% and the block value of your shield by 5%. And that is really good for defensive and offensive. 10% of damage you deal adds to your active Ignore Pain, so that's really important there. Devastate, Thunderclap, Revenge and Execute actually have a chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Shield Slam. We also have Challenging Shout on a 2-minute cooldown. So all tanks are able to taunt enemies to force them to attack them, but as a warrior, we have Challenging Shout, which will taunt all enemies within 10 yards to attack us, which is really useful. Then we've got Sudden Death, which I've already mentioned. We have Into the Fray, where you gain haste for each enemy or ally within 10 yards, up to 8% haste. Increases strength and armor by 5% and your critical strike chance. Shield Charge, critical strike chance and critical strike damage increased, and shield charges increase your auto attack damage and speed. Now, one you may be aware of is Rend here, which wounds the target and causes damage over 15 seconds. But don't worry, because our Thunderclap is going to affect all targets with Rend. That is one thing I do need to mention. We also have Shield Wall on a 2-minute cooldown. Reduces all damage you take by 40% for 8 seconds, and you have got 2 charges of that as well, which is another great defensive. Your maximum health is increased, and every 20 rage you spend is going to heal you for 1% of your maximum health. Demoralizing Shout also generates 20 rage and increases damage you deal to affected targets by 20%. So it's rather than just defensive, it is also offensive as well. And every 250 rage you spend triggers a violent outburst, oh dear, causing your Shield Slam or Thunderclap to do a lot more damage and generate more rage and grant Ignore Pain as well. If we go over quickly into the Mythic Plus build, you can see we're barely changing anything at all, but we do get one new ability. So we get Fight Through the Flames, defensive stance, additionally reduces magic damage you take. So, what is that then? Well, we have 2 stances down here. Defensive stance, a defensive stance that reduces all damage you take and all magic damage you take. And you can also, if you want, change to Battle Stance, which is going to increase the critical strike chance of your abilities instead. So you generally, as a tank, may want to go into defensive if you are taking a lot of damage. If you really are in quite an easy situation, maybe you're doing a really easy Mythic Plus key, you're just not in any danger whatsoever, you could do some damage, extra damage in Battle Stance. We also have Thunderlord here, increases the radius of Demoralizing Shout. Each enemy hit by Thunderclap reduces the remaining cooldown on Demoralizing Shout. Again, this is the Mythic Plus build. And then the interesting one that we get is Ravager on a 1.5 minute cooldown. So all we're doing in the rotation for Mythic Plus is, remember I said Avatar is your number one priority? Well, in the Mythic Plus build, Ravager is your number one priority and Avatar is your number 2 priority. So we just squeeze in Ravager at the top priority, and that is the only change we're making to the rotation for Mythic Plus. It throws a whirling weapon at the target location that chases your enemies, inflicting damage to all enemies, deals reduced damage beyond 8, and it will generate a lot of rage as well. You can use this with your Avatar as they're both on a 1.5 minute cooldown. Apart from all of that, we do have a few other little utilities that I haven't mentioned. Battle Shout you should be using to increase attack power of you and your party in raid. We also have Hamstring, which is great at slowing your enemies. Heroic Leap, which is great from getting to A to B and doing some damage. Rallying Cry, which is a great defensive to increase health for all of your party temporarily. Pummel is great. This is going to interrupt spellcasting on your enemy. Really, really important. We can use it every 15 seconds. Really important, especially if you're a beginner, that you know you should be interrupting your enemy's spellcasting as much as physically possible. Impending Victory is going to heal you and do some damage. Intervene, you basically speed towards an ally, intercepting any melee and range attacks that are done against your ally. And we have also Shockwave, which will stun enemies in a cone in front of you. One more on here, this page, Spell Reflection. You can reflect the first spell that is shot against you next. We've spoken about Challenging Shout, Last Stand, Shield Wall. The only other one we have is Spell Block on a 1.5 minute cooldown, where you can then block spells for 30 seconds as well. And that is it. That is how you play Protection Warrior in the new season of Undermined in the War Within.